cover today. So Mendel, you're on, going full bore.
Thank you, Cliff, and I will try to be short because I do want to respect the very full agenda today. The parklets continue to expand. I know that Valerie is on the call. We've had some new ones pop up since we met last time, and those seem to be going well. I know that the council and the city staff are looking at beginning to stabilize them and maybe theme them so they don't look as random as they currently do. But things are going well. I talked to two of the restaurants downtown that I won't say their names, but I know that we probably have all eaten there. One of them said that from July of this year to last year, the revenue is up 11%, and so he really appreciated what the city's done and the support that citizens have enabled them to have. And the other one said that they're up about 80% from where they were, and so things seem to be coming back in some of the sectors, and so we're very happy for that. If you've been around town, I know that Spaghetti Eddie's has a parklet that's very, very nice, and other places are doing them. So continue to eat out and support them. City Council last week on Thursday had a very extensive planning retreat, and so we were there from 9 to about 3:45 at Bidwell Forum. We were distanced and all masked up, and I know that Doris was there and some of the others that may be on the call. It was a very good retreat. We as a city talked about everything that you could possibly think about, and so we'll be reporting out on that in the next couple of months. But I want you to know that we continue to look at things, envision things, and explore things, and celebrate the over 100 wins that we were able to identify. And so we're very good about that. In March, the City Council approved a ordinance or amended the city code regarding the ordinance on shopping carts. And a letter went out on August 3rd. I'm assuming, Joe, that you probably got that. If not, I know that Valerie or I could send you a copy of that. But it's indicating the 5 areas that merchants who have those carts need to be aware of, responsible of. This was all done in kind of the thinking that we don't want like random carts all over the city. They don't look good. They're an expense to our shopping malls and stores, and it allows things to be put in them that probably shouldn't be. And so that is going out, and so just be aware of that your city council has taken some action there. Last month, we had the first expression of what I would consider the ordinance on our grandpa flats to be politically, so I don't want to offend those men that may want to live there. But the state has come out with a mandate. They amended Assembly Bills 68 and 88-1 and SB 13, and they, of course, are pushing the fact that housing needs to be expanded. So the city council didn't have much wiggle room in terms of that, but we did approve the minimum size, which is 1,000 square feet. And so we will read the second time of that this next month. We're dark this month, but if you want to hear more about that, then dial in September, whenever we meet, September the 8th or something like that. And I'm fairly certain that will be approved there. What else? So the shopping carts. I know that at our last council meeting, the mayor had Vicky, the new president and CEO of America's Christian, come on and talk about PPP loans. And so hopefully that will enable some of our folks that haven't acquired a PPP loan to do that. And she gave an excellent update there. I know Joe has been able to fund one of the CDBG grants loans. City Council is also exploring the option of redirecting some of those funds that have not been able to be loaned out to be of use for assistance in terms of rent. And there's some cities that have done that, and I know that Adam and I have talked about that, and so we're looking at doing that. Lastly, we want to just say once again thank you for the letter, the very kind note of support that this group gave to our group last month. The City Council really appreciated the support that you give us, the affirming support that you have shown to us in light of some of the a discussion that socially is going on, and we just want to say thank you. And that meant a lot to each of us and to our city staff. With that, Cliff, I think that's about all that I have. I see that David is on the call. If there's questions that any of you have of either of us, we'll certainly be more than happy to try to answer those.
Any questions for the council?
Mendel, can you repeat the accessory dwelling unit or the grandpa flat square footage?
It's 1,000. There's attached and there's detached.
1,000 is the max.
So the minimum that the state allowed us was 1,000, and council approved that.
Okay.
We debated going more. The problem that I think would be fair to say, and David can certainly chime in, is that they want for housing to expand, but then that means that parking is going to expand. And we don't have any way to constrict that. And so there was debate among us going to 1,000, which was the minimum the state afforded us, or 1,200. We chose to go 1,000. Hopefully that would maybe cut down a car or two. And when you consider the fact that there's numerous homes that have the ability to add these sort of flats, we did not want for the amount of cars to expand accordingly. So in our attempt to control that, we attempted to control the size, and that's really the only ability that we had. The height, just let me say that it's a 1-story, so they can't build up, but the city really didn't have a lot of wiggle room in terms of size, so that's what we did. And David, if you want to add to that, feel free to.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, you've done very well. It's a complicated ordinance. So the state says you cannot set maximum sizes any less than, so that's what we chose, was the maximum size at 1,000 for a detached. You can still have up to 500 foot attached. And then there's also junior dwelling, junior ADUs. So there's a lot in the puzzle, but many different pieces that can be created to add housing. Some favorable, some may not be so favorable.
So we have one vote left on that, and that will occur, as I said, this next month. So if any of you want to opine or contact any of us, you can certainly do so, but the framework has basically been approved and we will vote on that again and make it a final vote. So thank
One
you.
last thing. This is interesting. This is actually the city's proposal to send to the state for the state's approval.
Right.
They, in fact, may come back and deny us our chosen numbers and ask us to revisit things.
That is true. Yeah. Thank you, David, for saying that.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. Appreciate
Thank
it
you,
very
Cliff.
much. Appreciate your support for this group and the chamber.
Well, the
Jeff.
chamber's doing an excellent job, and we certainly support Joe, Michelle, and the board and everything. So keep up the excellent work.
Great, thank you. Joe?
Okay, well, thank you, Cliff. And for those that joined later, sorry for my appearance. I'm not in town. Chamber continues to assist the businesses, especially the ones that are shut down, to kind of modify or give them ideas or work with them to modify, to move things outside, as Mendel talked about. We did fund one of the grants or the loans that could turn into a grant. There are two in process, the applications putting together, donut shop and a hair salon. So, but we continue to get applications, just a lot of them just haven't qualified. Some upcoming events. Tomorrow we have our coffee mixer, which if you want to learn some alternative health ideas, you can join on there tomorrow at 8 a.m. Justin Garcia of Studio 36. Oriental medicine, acupuncture, that kind of stuff. Really cool stuff he has. So if you want to, teas and herbs and that kind of stuff, so if you want to check that out. And then I'm sure this group would be interested in next Thursday, our virtual lunch mixer with no lunch. We're having LA County Assessor Jeff Prang on to talk about what he does. So I'm sure there's things we're going to talk about today that we can ask questions of him next week too. So, and both of those are on our calendar to join in on. So, with that, we're just keeping going and trying to support our businesses and our residents as much as possible. And that's about it.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for all you're doing. I know that here always that the chamber support has been important and helpful. And it would be worth your time, I think, to listen to Jeffrey Prang. He was at the San Gabriel Valley Partnership legislative meeting and presented, over Zoom. And it's very interesting and I think helpful. So if you can make that, that's good. So thank you. Any questions for Joe? Okay, Valerie, what do you got for us? You're gonna have to turn, you're muted.
All right,
There we go.
Let's try that again. All right, so Mendel touched on the shopping ordinance and the parklets that we have in the village, but also just to let everyone aware for any businesses all throughout town, whether they're a salon or, maybe it's a small gym and they are looking to operate outdoors, we are making available our special outside event permit. So anybody that is interested in something like that, they can call me and we can work through that. Do have a couple businesses with applications in process for helping them through that so that they can go ahead and operate and get their businesses running as well. So that's one thing we're working on during this time. Continuing to see progress on the development for the Raising Cane's and the public market. I'm looking hopefully to have those open by September on both of those. For those, that question that often comes up on the Mayflower, we did go ahead and meet with the majority owner. We spoke on the phone last week with him just to get an update on what's going on. They do have a tenant for the anchor space that's very interested. However, of course, as I've mentioned in the past, this is a challenging site just because there's multiple owners. And the tenant that is interested does want to see a pretty extensive remodel. And so just working with the different owners, whether that's acquisition or trying to work something out, that's been complicated. So he's continuing to work on that. This tenant has been has been around for quite a few months already. And again, we're just keeping in contact, seeing what we can do, but there's nothing to report other than there is somebody interested in it right now. And can't say who, we don't know. He's under a really tight confidentiality contract with him. Other than that, we've got the sale of the Amelia and Route 66 property, the former Frozen Ropes, that is looking to close this month. We expect that to close, so we'll hopefully see them start to go ahead and work on improvements. This one, as a reminder, was a former RDA property. Purchaser is Eminent Healthcare. They're looking to, again, close escrow this month. And then also one of our projects that we'll be working on is the updating of our housing element. That's a cycle. For those that aren't familiar, it's an 8-year cycle. Right now we are in the 5th cycle. The next one will cover up through 2029, where we've got to deal with the housing crisis that we're under, and the state is looking regionally to assign Glendora with about, I think it's over 2,200 units that we got to go ahead and prepare for the next cycle, which will go through to 2029. Just as a comparison, this current cycle, we only had 646 units to prepare for. So we have some work ahead of us as we prepare with that. Council approved a contract with a consultant to help us through that. Other than that, joint effort on that business assistance loan, just continue to let people know it is available. And as Mendel mentioned, we'll be bringing that back to council in September just to see what the progress is, and maybe reallocating a portion of those funds that are still available. That's it for now, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Valerie. I may have missed it. Did you give us an opening date for Raising Cane's?
It's scheduled for September 1st, I believe, unless they've changed it a little bit. We're looking at September 1st.
Okay, thank you. Any
Valerie,
questions?
this is Bill Rue. For the marketplace, it's looking really good outside. When do they anticipate an opening for that?
That's the Raising Cane's. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the on Arrow.
On Arrow. Yeah, we don't have a specific date for that right now. I know they're still working with a couple of the utilities to get that ready, but they're ambitious, so hopefully we'll have them open by September as well.
It looks great. It's beautiful.
We're all excited to see that opening, but they're working on their utility connections.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much, Valerie. Appreciate your keeping us up to date on what's going on. Elizabeth, I see you are with us, and you're going to tell us that schools are going to open when?
August 24th is the first day of school this year. However, since the last time we've all been together, there have been changes every day to everything. And a few weeks ago, when the numbers started to spike, we had sort of preemptively made a decision that it might have been smarter to go back virtually for the safety of our students and teachers. And then not a day or so after that, Governor Newsom had his press conference where he took the choice away from schools essentially, and has mandated that schools go back virtually until or unless when their county, the county in which the school resides in, is off his naughty list as far as rates are concerned for 14 consecutive days. So for us to even consider coming back into in-person, LA County will have to be off that list for 14 consecutive days and show a decline. So it is now out of our hands entirely. There had been the opportunity to apply for a waiver through the Department of Public Health for potentially elementary schools and or special education and English language learners. And Glendora Unified School District had planned on applying for that waiver for specifically our special education and English language learner students who really need to have one-on-one experiences. But unfortunately, just maybe yesterday or the day before, the Department of Public Health said that they will not be They will not be approving any waivers for Los Angeles County. So no matter the circumstance, no matter whether it's a private school or a public school, there will be no waivers considered for LA County at this time. So we move forward, and we move forward very strongly. Our district office staff and our teachers have been working around the clock and so hard, and I have to take a minute to say how proud I am of every single employee of Glendora Unified School District and how hard they are pulling to make sure that our students have the best possible learning experience in this virtual circumstance. We are offering families two options right now in Glendora Unified School District. One is that they can go on the sort of in-person track where they will be learning virtually to begin with, but they will be tracking in just as soon as we are able and allowed to open. Or we are offering a fully online for the entire year track. And that is a completely separate curriculum. That is called the Glendora Online Academy of Learning, GOAL. And families can choose to, and they've got to opt in for the entire year on this one, where they will be online the entire year, and they will be essentially being provided a homeschool curriculum through the Glendora Unified School District. They'll still be considered students of Glendora Unified. They'll still be allowed to come in and take electives through Glendora Unified, meaning band or orchestra, sports, etc. When all that stuff comes back, or even virtually, they'll be allowed to participate and stay with their classmates, but they will be in a self-directed online platform. So we're offering families these two options where whatever their level of comfort, whatever level of their need is, we're working really hard to accommodate everybody's wishes or everybody's needs at this point in time. So again, August 24th, 100% virtual until we get off of Newsom's naughty list. And then as soon as that happens, we will move into a hybrid phase as quickly as we can. So we'll start phasing kids in right away when we get off of that list. And Dr. DeLeon, who is hoping to join us, she called me right before the call started. There was an urgent matter that she had to attend to. Had said in our last board meeting that she is hoping to give everybody at least 2 weeks notice before we convert from the 100% online to phasing into the hybrid method, and then working our way back into full in-person learning over a period of time as we deal with all of the Department of Public Health's requirements as far as what we have to do when we are back in person, the cleaning guidelines, the spacing guidelines, the mask guidelines, all of that. We've got to, it's an all or nothing. We're not allowed to open until we can meet all of the criteria after we get off the naughty list, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. I have one question, because in most of the places, it's the teachers' unions that are fighting opening. Has our teachers' union taken any stand on opening school?
Well, I mean, I will say that they certainly have their opinion, and I will share that with you. But again, we have no choice. It's not like the teachers' union is what's keeping us from opening. Okay. I will say, I do want to state absolutely for the record that every single person involved with the district wants our kids back in school. We absolutely want to get back to in-person instruction. We've got to keep everybody safe. Safety is the most important thing. And we, as Joe, I'm sure can attest to, or anybody, business owners can attest to, there are pages of requirements as far as being able to open things back up. So we've got 14 pages from the Department of Public Health as far as criteria is concerned, that we have to meet all 14 pages. Again, it's an all or nothing. So we have to submit that document. It has to be approved by the Department of Public Health, and then we can open back up. Again, that's after we get off of the state's list as far as 14 days. However, I will answer your question. Our teachers union has been exceptionally collaborative. We have MOUs, new MOUs with both GTA, the Glendora Teachers Association, and CSEA, which are our classified employees. Both unions have come together extremely collaboratively with the district and are working towards solutions. Do we have scared members? We absolutely have scared members that want to make sure that they are safe going to work and that they are protected going to work, all of that. But to say that our union sat there and held up our being able to open up schools, that is not the case. We have worked very collaboratively with both of our unions and have had full support with both of the unions throughout this entire process. So keeping their safety and security of teachers and students in mind, I'd say that we are working together very, very well.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one.
Yeah.
It's Ryan Otteson. Just want to make sure I heard clearly that if a student opts into the 100% virtual track, once the sports open back up, they'll still be able to participate in the sports.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
The coaches and all of the elective teachers and things like that, so like say marching band, visual and performing arts, all of that kind of stuff, really want to make sure that those that online 100% for the entire year committed, they want to make sure that they still feel like they are part of the Glendora Unified School District, that they're Glendora kids. So when it comes to those electives and sports and all that kind of stuff, even when we're still virtual, they will be able to zoom into the PE or the orchestra class or whatever the case might be. They are not going to be removed from our programs that way. We still want to keep all the kids as completely engaged in the community as possible, as we recognize the very important social and emotional needs that students have when it comes to their peers and what being out of school means that way.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Appreciate it very, very much. There are several bills that people need to be aware of, and if you're in the business sector, you need to particularly be aware of, because the legislature is back in their virtual session, and they're passing bills, and they're trying to cut down the number, and that's creating a little bit of angst for some. AB 1253, which poses an additional tax on higher income taxpayers. That bill is has passed the Assembly on a 59-17-4 vote. And so it will be in the Senate. Maybe Marco can give us an update on that when we get to Marco. The family leave 1383 is still bouncing around. I could not find that it. I couldn't find that it has passed yet. That has to do with the family leave protection for more a business with more than 4 employees. There's also a Senate bill, which Marco, I think I'll have you speak to a little later, SB 217, which has to do with recreational and organizational camps. There's a school funding bill that has passed, which is Senate Bill 98, and that passed the Senate 29-10 and passed the Assembly 57-17 and 5 not voting. That funding bill, I'm not sure just exactly what it has some questionable things in it that probably need, I don't know whether there's somebody that can answer that online now or not.
Cliff, which bill was that?
It's a Senate Bill 98. It's a school funding bill that
Yeah, that was a budget bill. That was like a budget trailer bill. I think that passed. Let me check. Give me one second.
Yes, it did pass.
Yeah.
Both the Senate, but what was the purpose of that one? Because it was something extraordinary, and maybe you can research that a bit and get back to us on
I
that.
think that was to fund the schools at the level they were back in March or April. No pluses or minuses.
Actually, that bill is a very lengthy bill that covers school funding in every aspect. And one part of it is in an unusual way this time to guarantee that schools will receive the same amount of funding this coming year as they received on the date of February 29th when schools were closed in 2020. And that gives schools a lot of assurance that they will, whether the population declines or not, that they will get that funding. But it also covers charter schools, and charter schools oversee the homeschooling program. And I think right now with the online teaching from traditional schools, some people are preferring to switch to homeschool programming, and they are unable to do that because there's no funding. The homeschool admissions are frozen at the time of February 19th. And a lot of people now are deciding, well, if my kids are home and I'm going to be involved, I would rather do a homeschool program rather than having them on the internet the whole time. So they're not able to do that. There's no option for additional enrollment in the homeschool program.
And that, so I've done a little bit of research on that, and that seems to come back to the unions who are saying, no, we don't want to deal with charter schools is really what they're fighting against.
Yes, the LA Teachers Union, UTLA, you all have probably seen their extremely extensive list of demands before schools. They would approve the reopening of schools in LA Unified. And on page 11, one of their demands is to put a moratorium on charter schools.
Okay, any other bills? Gene, and I appreciate you giving me, there's one on workers' compensation, or two actually, AB 196 and AB 664. They both passed the assembly. The employee leave 3216, which adds some extra paid sick leave and medical leave. That passed the assembly 4417 and 18 not voting, and 18 not voting are usually those that do not want to be counted in opposition but aren't in favor. I don't quite understand that. In fact, it would be 4435 it passed. Our representative Blanca was one that did not vote on that one. And then the bill expanding protection for paid leave, Senate Bill 1383 did pass the Senate on a 21-12-7 vote. So they're moving stuff through awfully fast up there, and actually gutting a couple of bills and sending them through on things that are different than what their names were for, which is part of the process that they go through. I thought we'd do the representative reports quickly. I don't think Enrique is on. I don't think Bob Pence is on. Marco, nice to have you on.
Yes, thank you, Cliff. So you asked me to talk about SB 217, which was the camp bill that the senator introduced. So
Right.
That bill is not moving this year. It's going to stay in the committee that it's in the assembly, and it won't move. I won't use adjectives surrounding how we normally talk about bills that don't move, simply because this bill came to fruition due to a 6-year-old girl who drowned in a pool in a summer camp in Altadena. I talked to the senator about this bill, asked him, what I should discuss, and he basically just told me to convey to you guys that the bill isn't moving, and that's kind of really it.
Okay, because it's kind of a crazy, it's got so much stuff to it if you read
Right.
it.
As far as besides that, we so a lot of the bills that you just discussed, especially the assembly bills that are that are coming to the Senate, they're first going to their respective committees in the Senate before they come to appropriations. So eventually they'll come to appropriations and they'll be evaluated based off of their fiscal impact. As far as our bills, we have, give me 1 second. I have to pull up how many we have moving so I could tell you guys.
I hope it's about 2.
Yeah, it probably is about like 3 or 4. Certainly an improvement, and Gene will appreciate that.
You're
Give
right.
me 1 second. I have a slow computer.
Well, I saw they only have 700 bills to get through by August 31st.
I know it's
session, so yeah, we're keeping our eye on it.
Yes, Cliff. We only have 4.
Good.
And then also I wanted to let you guys know that, so I don't know if I would assume that you guys have heard a lot about this, but there has been ongoing extensive issues with EDD. And there have been constituents that I have been helping from the cities that I cover that have been waiting for months for their benefits. And so the senator sent a letter detailing, without obviously conveying to the EDD who these people's names are in a public letter, but the issues and the ongoing struggles that we have had as an office to help people get their benefits, because we are helping hundreds of people trying to get benefits that they deserve and that they qualify for. And there are lots of people who have been waiting for a long time. So I sent that letter out to everybody, and I can send it to you, Cliff, if everybody wants to see it. But we've been receiving calls from people basically asking us if, are you guys doing anything about that? And we are, and my boss is aware of it, and we're trying to handle this in the most appropriate manner possible. Besides that, session's going to wrap up on the 31st. That's at least what I see on the schedule. On the senator's calendar, that seems like to be the last day. So in the September meeting, we'll have a very good summation of what has made it to the governor's desk and what has not. And then, and maybe at the federal level, who knows if they'll pass another relief bill, but that would affect the EDD portion of kind of what I discuss from our office. So that's
Okay.
kind of really it. And I appreciate all the feedback that I get from you guys in terms of, Gene, for instance, contacted me regarding 1383, and Cliff, I saw you contacted us regarding the budget. So,
Right.
So I appreciate everything that you guys are sending our way, and we're doing our best to keep everybody informed as best as possible in this sort of hopefully not permanent virtual era right now.
Right. Thank you, Marco.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Always appreciate your updates.
Yes, and I can't wait to see you
with
guys
us.
in person one day.
Right. Right. I don't think Taylor's on. I don't see him. Taylor, are you on? Okay, Vicky, I know is on.
Hi. So I just wanted to report on a few things. So Supervisor, the board meetings are now every other week. So they're putting a lot of items on the agendas, it seems. This past Tuesday was a very lengthy meeting, a lot of items. Items of note, especially on how Supervisor Barger voted. She was the only dissenting vote on a few things that I would like to note. For some reason, the board wanted to vote on their support of the split roll tax. And it was approved. Supervisor Barger voted no. Another item was the amendment to the county charter. She tried very hard to get this item. Well, she didn't have any support to get it held. She was very concerned that this was not vetted adequately and properly. The process was very upsetting to her, and she was the only one that voted no on that.
And Vicki, that's the one that's going to go on the ballot.
Yes,
And,
in November.
In November, and I see LA Times actually, their editorial board came out in opposition to it. And Judy Nelson is going to do a report on that at our September meeting. So if you'll get all the information that you can to her on that, that would be appreciated, but we'll go over that one then.
Okay, great. And then lastly, there is a loan and grant workshop that will be happening Monday from 9 to 10 for loan opportunities available from the county, state, federal. If you would like me to send this out to the rest of the chamber, Cliff, I can do that. It has registration information and
yeah, that would be a good idea. And Joe
okay.
put that on the website.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And then I can also, if you'd like the actual press releases of the supervisor's stance on how she voted on these different items. She's of course much more eloquent than I am, so I can forward those if anyone has any interest. So, and
Great.
that's all I have.
I appreciate it and appreciate your constant contact with us on the issues that are going on. That's greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Dr. De Leon, I see you have joined us. Welcome to the Glendora Chamber Legislative Action and Economic Development Committee. We meet once a month on the first Thursday at noon, and we'll look forward to your being with us.
I look forward to being there. Great. I've heard you're a great group, so thank you for your invitation, and I will definitely be there.
Okay, and Elizabeth gave us a report. Do you have anything you want to add?
About Prop 15?
Prop 15, we'll have a report. Frank's going to give us a report on Prop 15, and then you can respond.
Okay.
Okay.
Dr. De Leon,
what's on my mind?
yeah. Dr. De Leon, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit or tell people where you came from and how much fun you've been having in Glendora these last few weeks, I think this would be a great time to do that.
Sure. Well, hello, everyone. So happy to be here as your superintendent. I've had the most amazing warm welcome from the entire Glendora community since I've gotten here. I was selected back in March, April, but I feel like I already have been here a while and know everyone, even though I only officially started on July 1st. But I am coming from Ventura County, my prior district was Oxnard Union High School District up there. I have nearly 30 years in education. Most of it secondary level, although I do have several years in elementary and K-12 education. I've worked in both big districts, small, medium size. This will be my 5th year as superintendent. And as you know, these are fun times for everyone. Trying to do our very best to get us up and running with distance learning. It's really basically a vertical, straight up and down learning curve for everybody. Our teachers are tremendous and have been working all summer preparing to provide a really wonderful experience for our students online. So as you can imagine, just as all of you, we're doing everything we can to be responsive to the evolving situation with the pandemic. And I say that because, as you all know, it's every day the rules are changing, and or we get new directives, health orders, information, or it just completely reverses and goes back the other way. So we're doing everything we can to keep up with that. But what I told my staff was, because I think we're all feeling a bit of anxiety right now, probably, is that, we just need to, no matter what happens with the state, we keep our focus on kids, a laser focus on the very best thing we can do for kids. And also try to use this as an opportunity to demonstrate brilliance, because that's all we got right now. So anyway, so that's kind of a little bit about me. I love it. I love this community. I lived here for about 5 years when my kids were really little. My kids are I have 3 children, and they are in their mid-20s now. So this is about 20 years ago. But I'm really, really happy to be back and enjoying being your superintendent. So thank you so much.
Great. We welcome you back, and it'll be nice when we can be together and be able to interchange in person. So
Yes,
thank you.
Definitely.
If we can have a quick report, Pat?
Yes, I'll give you a quick report on Citrus. Our fall term is going to start August 25th, and it will be totally online, as summer has been, and the spring term as well. Our Community College Athletic Association has said that we're going to have athletics, but it'll be after January, given what the scenario will be like at that time, which is going to be an interesting situation with the use of facilities simultaneously, spring and fall sports. But I think they really would like to serve the student athletes and try to open up if the county says that we can do so. We had to postpone our commencement for class of 2020 because of the COVID, and so we're going to try to do something in December for that class. We haven't quite worked it out, but we know that some of our K-12 counterparts have done a great job with drive-by commencements and so forth. So there's what we can do to help those students. And lastly, things are still going on with our performing arts. In fact, they're going to, this summer, Summer Theater is going to do a live broadcast of Alfred Hitchcock's 39 Steps radio play, and it will be held Friday, August 14th at 7 p.m. So if you want to tune in and hear a murder mystery radio play, you can just go to HPAC at citruscollege.edu, and they'll give you the link to tune into that, so you can hear what the students have done all summer and getting ready for that production. So we're waiting for the county to tell us what we need to do, and we are in the process of setting up protocols when and if we can open for full-time and students to come back to campus. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Do you have anything, Maureen, you want to say about APU?
I'll just echo the same refrain in that we too are fully online beginning on August the 31st, continuing throughout the fall semester. We are working hard to double down on our value proposition, which involves just heightening the engagement between faculty and students, and upping the ante on what the expectations are relative to that student engagement, and then what are the support services that can come out of our student affairs team, as well as our academic success teams to help students flourish in that regard. We have invested about $9 million in our return to campus efforts. That includes a fully funded testing center that was supported by our donors, and that will be up and running, that return to campus. We just could not, while we waited for guidance coming state and a public.
You're breaking up.
In back.
Maureen, Maureen, you're breaking up.
Maybe.
So
I don't know.
We'll go on, and you're gonna give a report later on.
Hey, Ben.
Ashley, anything from Athens?
Can you get a?
What? Ashley, you're muted.
Hi,
There you go.
Cliff. No, nothing to report at this time.
Okay, that's good. We'll move on then to our proposition presentations. And Jackie is going to kick this off, and she sent me a note saying what's expected. And I think that it's to get people acquainted with it. It's not probably an in-depth presentation because I believe, Joe, that we're going to try to put on a forum of some kind later on. Is that correct? Probably the first couple of weeks of September. So
Yes.
okay. So Jackie, whatever you give us is good to just let us know what Proposition 14 is about.
Proposition 14 is a refunding of a bill that was passed in 2004. It's a lot of money involved, $5.5 billion. And the yes and no opposition is, do you want to spend the money or do you not want to spend the money? But there's really a lot more in depth to the bill than that. On stem cells, I did reading so I could be more knowledgeable. In a stem cell, we have one to repair each portion of the body. Like if the skin is torn, it heals it. If the brain has an injury, there's different cell that heals it. The complication being, if you put the wrong stem cell in the wrong place. There's some unethical people that used it in trying to do facial improvements, and they ended up putting bones in somebody's eyelid because once you inject a stem cell, it cannot be taken away. So when the body doesn't heal itself or have enough stem cells to replace that healing, then we have surgery and the like. We do not get support from the pharmaceuticals because it takes away from their medicines that they sell, because this is a self-healing method. And the biggest opponent to it is the Pope, but there are many in support. Michael J. Fox supported it very highly in 2004 when it was initiated. The main initiator of it is a lawyer and a contractor because his grandson has diabetes. And he's put in over $3 million of his own monies to help support the bill. And he is the chairman of the board.
You're muted. You're muted. Jackie, there you go.
Somebody turned me off. It's a general obligation bond for Stem Cell Research Institute and making changes to the Institute's governing structure and programs, and a no vote is not to spend the money. These types of research are done nonpartisan, and it gives the public the interest in the field of the importance of the public to trust in securing the research so that it's not done by someone that's going to have unethical interests in it. I wrote lots of notes. Now I'm getting nervous, sorry. There has been no money spent, no PAC money spent in opposition to this bill. And the majority of the bonds in the state of California are for water. And so this bill is separate on that decision making. So did I cover all the points?
I think so. One thing, I think it says it increased the state cost to repay the bonds at about $260 million a year over the next 30 years.
For 30 years, yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was one president vetoed it, another president supported it, but these initiatives are all done by state. The people in favor of it are in favor because of the jobs secured and because it's a state funded by our state. It keeps the jobs in our state. The USC has research grants, and we issue out grants to different facilities in order to do these improvements to the understanding of it.
Okay, appreciate that. Any questions on Proposition 14? Okay, we go to the hot one. Frank, you're on Proposition 15.
The hot one. It is a hot one. It's getting bigger by the day as people are developing awareness for it. And I recommend that everybody goes to Ballotpedia to do some more in-depth research on it so that they can fully understand what is becoming a sort of a first step and a first assault here going forward on Proposition 13. So the title of the bill is California Proposition 15, a tax on commercial and industrial properties for education and local government funding initiative. Some background is that in 1978, Californians approved Proposition 13, which required that residential and business properties are taxed based on their purchase price. The tax is limited to 1% of the purchase price plus annual increases of 2%. Proposition 15 would amend the California State Constitution to require business properties, except agricultural, to be taxed based on their current market value, while continuing to tax residential properties based on their purchase price. This is known as a split tax roll. Since the 1800s, California has always had a unified tax roll. The change from the purchase price to market value would be phased in beginning in the fiscal year 2022. Properties such as retail centers, whose occupants are 50% or more small businesses, would be taxed based on market value beginning in the year 2025. The ballot initiative would initially make an exemption for properties whose business owners have 3 million or less in holdings in California. So it's not just individual properties. If you were to own three $1 million properties, then that would become 3 million in holdings. A yes vote creates a split tax roll that supports this constitutional amendment to require business properties to be taxed based on today's value rather than their original purchase price. A no vote leaves things the way they are now and maintains the present unified tax roll, thus continuing to tax business properties based on the property's original purchase price plus 2% annual increases. And don't slight the 2% annual increases, because on a property held over 20 years, that's a 50% compounded tax increase. So I hear it often that, you know, it's only 1%. What's the big deal? It's actually not just 1%, because you're not paying your tax from the asset value. You pay it with income. If you were to view it as a percentage of property income, for rental properties, or a percentage of your loan payment for an owner-occupied building, it can represent as much as 20 to 30% tax on income. In some cases, more than state or even federal income tax combined. For example, based on a $1 million home or building purchase with an $800,000 loan, your property tax represents an additional 28% of your loan payment. So a friend of mine, ironically, is a math teacher, and this 1% perception even blinded him to the reality. I asked him to equate his annual property tax bill to a percentage of his income. It came out to 12% of his annual income, and that's more than I pay in state income tax, he said. I felt bad about that, but he's since forgiven me. So who will this affect? All office, retail, and manufacturing property owners, tenants, and consumers. For anybody who purchased a business property more than 5 years ago, your tax could go up between 25 and 50%. How does this affect tenants? Because most leases have provisions for property tax pass-throughs, we estimate tenants could see a 15% increase for every $1 a square foot in rent. How does this affect consumers? Increases in wholesale costs cause increases in retail costs. We have something that's going to occur here we call the multiplier effect. When a product is manufactured, that manufacturing business is going to be paying a property tax, whether it's through his leasehold or through direct ownership of the property. So the manufacturer is going to pay a property tax. Product's going to go to a warehouse. They're going to be paying a property tax. It's going to go to a retailer. They're going to be paying a property tax. After the product's retailed, it goes to the consumer and the cost of the end use of the product. So who's supporting this bill? Well, the people who are supporting this bill are pretty extensive in the Democratic Party. So they have a list of Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Beto O'Rourke from Texas, basically a who's who of the Democratic Party is in support. Who is also supporting this? Mostly the recipients, the teachers' unions, school districts, the recipient end. I mean, who's not going to support something where they're on the receiving end of the funds? So municipalities, ACLU, various Democratic organizations. On the supporters list, on the opposed list, that was the supporters list. The opposed parties are pretty much all business organizations, the Chamber of Commerce's, the Republicans, the NAACP. I was actually surprised to learn that Democrat Willie Brown is very much opposed to this bill. And I'll take a quote from one of his op-ed pieces on it. He says, even before the unpredictable, tumultuous events of COVID-19, this massive property tax increase demonstrates an insensitivity and lack of awareness about the struggles that small businesses, particularly minority small businesses, face. So he had a very well-written article opposing this bill. So in closing, California is one of the most overtaxed states with one of the highest costs of living. And this is an attempt to unlock another tax increase and start the process of incrementally eliminating Proposition 13. Most opponents believe residential is next. Passage of Proposition 15 will contribute to the already high cost of operating a business and living in California. That's all I have for my summary. I probably could have done a semester on that, but
I know.
Yeah, did have my
That's good.
off, didn't I?
Appreciate that very much. I don't see Dr. De Leon left. Elizabeth, you want to tell us that you really think that the schools will get some money out of this?
Well, I would just ask for the alternative side of the proposition here. Argument. Thank you. The proposition here. Just the presentation of the facts as far as what benefits could be seen from this Proposition 15.
You actually think schools will get some money?
I mean, I'm gonna, yes, I do believe that schools will get some money. I do believe that schools will get some money. And I don't want to debate this here right now. I think that I made my point. The first meeting that we discussed Proposition 15 when it was in its former number, I would just really always ask that both sides of the proposition are presented on all propositions this way. And if you're going to hold a symposium in September, then certainly, like I said, I have no intention of debating this issue right now. I think that we all are aware and know that our schools are grossly underfunded in the state of California. Am I sure that this is the best solution? Not necessarily, but again, I'd ask for a full and fair, balanced presentation of it. And if we're going to do something in September, then I'd like the opportunity to bring somebody that could present on the opposite side. That's fair.
That's fair. Any other comments from anybody or questions?
Yeah, Cliff. It's Doris, Cliff.
Yes.
I really do believe that schools will get money from this. And as Elizabeth said, yeah, the other side hopefully will get presented in the future. But yeah, I don't see anything that would not allow schools to get additional funding from this.
Okay. All right, but we'll work to make sure that we have both sides represented.
And I might say that schools are going to need additional funding to catch up from all that's going on right now.
There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
That's true. Okay, anything else? Thank you, Frank. Proposition 16. Maureen.
So hopefully, if I can just say quickly, Glendora Unified School Board member and interim provost Rukshan Fernando is now our new permanent provost. And we are super excited about that. And he already was on fire as interim provost. So we're really excited to see where he takes the institution next. So just a shout out to Rukshan and that appointment this past week. So I had Proposition 16, which is ending the ban on affirmative action. This was introduced by Assemblywoman Shirley Weber. She is out of San Diego. It would repeal effectively, so it's passed through the legislature and now moved on to as a ballot initiative. It would repeal Proposition 209, which was an affirmative action amendment. It is would do a constitutional amendment adjustment. A yes vote supports this constitutional amendment to repeal 209, which says that the state cannot discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to persons on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, national origin in public employment and public education and public contracting. A no vote opposes the constitutional amendment, thereby keeping Proposition 209 in place, which is simply the flip side of that, and I won't read the reverse. What else can I tell you about this proposition? It effectively, I have my notes here, so I'm toggling between pages here, so forgive me. This would allow schools and public agencies to take race and other characteristics into account when making admissions, hiring, and contracting decisions. This has been by those that are in support of this shift, would result, they believe, in an increase, particularly among Black and Latino enrollment in state elite public universities, as well as supporting both female-owned and person of color-owned businesses. And they believe that this has been, at this point, it's stymied the advancement of those people groups. This has gotten some significant support coming out of a lot of the progressive circles. It has been, it is in opposition by a coalition of Republicans, some moderate Dems, and some folks that are within large Asian American voting blocs. What else can I tell you? This certainly, so there is, according to a professor out of UCLA and a senior fellow out of the Hoover Institute, he believes that Prop 16 would have a negative impact on US global competitiveness in looking at educational outcomes already, and saying that the US is middle rank related to, compared to peer countries around the world. And then there's a debate back and forth that I don't want to really spend too much time on, psychological effects of affirmative action. I would encourage you to go to, just like the gentleman before suggested, that you go to Ballotpedia. I think that's really important to get briefed there. I checked in with some of our local elected officials, same thing. There is a deep concern that this just, that people do their homework when it comes to the ballot initiatives to then make sure that your vote really does represent well your point of view with this proposition. So I just wanted to do a very brief overview. So I think that's really it.
Very good. Any questions? It's one we have to read up on. It introduces us to it. Anybody?
Cliff,
Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Wasn't this ruled on set-asides with the U.S. Supreme Court?
Maureen, do you know
Yeah,
the
I'm
answer?
looking. I did a, let's see. I don't have an exact answer for you, Michael, but there was a reference to the Supreme Court. So a couple things that's probably good to know. No fiscal impact statement at this point. So no direct fiscal impact. Where was that? So it removes the ban on affirmative action involving race-based and sex-based preferences from the California Constitution. Therefore, federal law would define the parameters of affirmative action. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that race-based affirmative action in higher education and government contracting must be reviewed under, quote, strict scrutiny. In the U.S., strict scrutiny is a form of judicial review that requires a law, policy, or program to serve a compelling state interest and be narrowly tailored to address that interest. Court have ruled that strict racial quotas and racial point systems in higher education admission are unconstitutional, but that individualized holistic reviews that consider race when tailored to serve a compelling interest, such as educational diversity, are constitutional.
So
if that helps at all.
Hence, there could be quite a bit of challenges in the court of how this is applied.
Yeah, if you go to cases related to affirmative action in higher ed, there's the Regents of UC versus Buck from 1978, Gratz versus Bollinger in 2003, Fisher versus the University of Texas in 2016. And so you may want to, everyone, I would encourage you to, there's a lot of background to go through so that you can make the informed decision about which way you'd want to look at that.
Well, currently now on applications, it's illegal to either ask or put your race or your gender, I believe. You can't ask that. So will that now change underneath this bill if it were to be passed?
We can identify, I mean, you're identifying your gender. We can't discriminate based on your gender identity, race, sex, etc. But we do ask that qualifying information on our applications. It just does not impact a decision for admission. But we do gather that information, which we need for IPED reports.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. We'll go to, we will go to Gene. Gene?
Thank you, and I'd like to take a moment, just Glendora Rotary, like to thank everybody that helped and sponsored our Field of Heroes. It was a really great event, and I think it was good for our community, so thank you for that. California Proposition 17, the title is Voting Rights Restoration for Persons on Parole Amendment of 2020. Lead sponsor is Kevin McCartney. Yes vote would support a constitutional amendment to allow people on parole for a felony conviction to vote. A no vote would mean you don't want that. Currently, California Constitution disqualifies people with the felonies from voting until their imprisonment and their parole are completed. I didn't know that. California is one of 3 states that has this, so that most of the other states have already done away with this and allow their convicted folks to vote. As far as a fiscal impact, there would be annual cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars statewide for voter registration and ballot materials, one-time increase of hundreds of thousands of dollars for to update the voter registration cards and systems. So there will be a financial impact, not huge. Support is mostly right now on the Democratic side, ACLU, League of Women Voters of California as of now. Opposition is very slim, so it looks like it's not something that is a big hoo-yah right now with everything else going on. So we can gather more information, and again, like the other folks said, you can go to the online and read up. I think this is probably more of a personal choice type of thing than it's going, other than having a minor fiscal impact at this point. So thank you, Cliff.
Good, thank you, Gene. Any questions for Dis, Maureen? Okay. We have Proposition 18, and that's Maryland. Maryland, Sparks.
So, yes, so this proposition is actually an amendment to the California Constitution. If your 18th birthday falls between March 4th, which is typically our primary election, and November 3rd, the date of our general election, you would be allowed to vote in the primary on March 3rd. Currently, 18 states and Washington, D.C. allow 17-year-olds to vote in the primary because they will be 18 in the general election. Fiscal impact, several $100,000 to $1 million every 2 years, and that would cover the cost of additional voting materials. A one-time cost of several $100,000 to update the current voter registration systems to recognize the 17 and almost 18-year-olds. The 26th Amendment to the United States Constitution, ratified in 1971, protects the right to vote at age 18, so potentially there is no conflict between state and federal. This is not a bipartisan effort. 100% of the Democratic state senators voted in favor, 2 Republicans. 90% of the assembly members voted in favor, 55 out of 61 Democrats, 5 of whom did not vote. The arguments, well, some studies, some psychological studies, both British and US studies show that 16 and 17-year-olds have less political efficacy. And Austria, though, their studies show that 16 and 17-year-olds have similar voting preferences as their older voters. A study by Teen Vogue states that 16 and 17-year-olds are more stable and less transient than their college-age counterparts. My daughter, who did her master's in trauma-informed education, states that the prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed until age 25. At age 17, you have no say in your life because you are still technically a child. So some children would vote out of spite. This does, of course, open up the rabbit hole of what we put, you know, some 17-year-olds can sign up for the military, and we put them behind the wheel of a weapon of mass destruction at the age 16. So and that's just the insurance and parent side of me. So like the others have stated, please go visit Ballotpedia or even the Women's League of Voters too for more information.
Okay. It seems to me really what it's saying is if somebody's eligible to vote in the general election in November, they ought to be able to vote in the primary election. Isn't that what this is really allowing to happen?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that very much. Any questions? I don't think that I never did get a response back from Zach, so I'll have to get on his case, and we'll do Proposition 19 at our next meeting, and we'll cut some of the first part shorter so that we can get it all in. I know we've had a number of people that have had to transfer out. Is there anything that we need to deal with in this last minute? Anybody?
Cliff?
Yes.
I do have a question. I don't remember the bill number that it was that's up there in Sacramento right now. If there's a commercial property that by right you can build a high density residential on, do we know the status of that? I don't remember the bill number.
You know, I don't either. Marco, do you?
I asked him, he didn't know.
Oh, he didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay.
There's a lot of housing bills, I'll put it that way.
Well, stop him, Marco.
We'll have to do some, send me a note on that one and I'll try to follow up too.
I know Frank's just twitching over there when I just said that, but that's all right. Reasonable
Okay.
ones will work.
I want to thank all of you that presented, and we will we'll work on when we do a forum of how we can collaborate this and specific items of information for each of the propositions, because I think it gets lost. And I hope that as a chamber, we can continue to inform our people. Any
Cliff,
last, yes.
Yeah, Cliff, I just want to make a plug for Jeffrey Prang when he comes in. He's been a really big help. I had tasked him about a month and a half ago to help us work on the Heritage Foundation because they've had a long battle with possessory tax, and they were getting nowhere and very frustrated. So I contacted him, and he arranged through his network all the different folks that this touches, and we got resolution for the Heritage Foundation. And so it looks like here shortly that will finally get put to bed, and their long battle and stress will be over with. So he did an amazing job of gathering the right people together to solve this issue that's been going on for years.